Welcome, everybody, to Office Hours. Today is the last day of March, the 31st of 2021. And we're here to talk about SEO and stuff like that helps people find our websites. Hopefully those people are customers and have money and would like to pay us for our services because, like, why else would we do this? Not because of the goodness of our hearts. I mean, we have nice hearts, but that's really not why we're doing it. All right. Well, so we wanted to start with some success stories, and Tricia had a success story that she wanted to share. Why don't you start us off?
So I have been working with a client on their new website, and their previous website had pretty pictures and was pretty. It didn't have much text, and it was not indexed by Google. So just launched that Monday night. So I'm excited. The launch went well. The only thing that took a little bit longer than usual was getting the form, making sure that they were getting the emails from that. So just a few little, that's what I launched it. And then I was talking to somebody, I was like, yeah, I'm still working on a few things. And they're like, well, it's live. So what else? I'm like, oh, there's double and triple checking all these other things.
Yeah.
So, but it's doing good. So I'm excited to have that launch.
That's great. Websites are always hard to launch. Yep. That's awesome. Yeah. Lavanya, how about you? Do you have a success story for us today?
Yes, I finished a blog post. It's in for editing right now.
Good.
Awesome.
Great. Can you give us a preview of the topic?
What is it? 5 things missing from your website that shouldn't be.
Okay.
Good.
That sounds great.
I'll need to check that out.
We should all check it out to make sure we're not missing them.
I know.
I tried to think of a success story for me. I feel left out. Surely there was some sort of success I will do a personal success. So I started doing some math tutoring a few weeks ago. And one of the students that I've been working with passed her assessment today. So that she gets to graduate to the next level of math tutoring. And gosh, I'm not crying. You are. It was hard I was trying to hold myself together while she passed this test. And wow, it was beautiful because she's been, obviously she needs math tutoring help, and everything is working against her. She's kind of getting shuffled between her mom's house and her grandparents' house, and then internet issues and schooling issues.
Yeah,
everything's against her. But pandemic. Good for her. Good for her.
That's awesome.
She passed this, and it's so fun to just say, "Wow, I'm proud of you," and her face lights up, and
that's nice.
I'm not crying. You are. That was terrible. I cried in math tutoring today. But that was a wonderful thing to see. Yeah. All right. Well, now down to business. Tricia has asked
4 questions.
I can't even count how many questions. No, a lot of great questions here.
And I probably could have an add-on to one of them because I got something else kind of related
you
to
one. I'm kidding, of course. So Lavanya, are you ready to answer all of Tricia's questions for her? I gotta say, Lavanya has been the best note taker of everybody at the Google Analytics.
Yes, she has.
Your notes are comprehensive and exhaustive, and that's amazing. As someone who is not a particularly good note taker, I really appreciate your ability to look up the answer and find it because you've already written it down is great. So it'll serve you well. So let's Lavania's going to help me because a lot of them are Google Analytics questions.
Okay.
So do you want to take them in any particular order, or just
well, we can start with the first one. And so let's see. First, to give one tad bit of background. So this is the Google Analytics, the GA4, and then of course, which is the new coming up, and then the UA Universal Analytics, which has been around for a while.
Yes.
So I did figure out, I was setting it up on my client's new website. Right. And when I first went to set up, it just did GA4. And I'm like, ugh, I don't even, and then I was kind of afraid because then I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't want to set something up and just say, well, I hope it collects data. So I was able to go in and find where it was hidden, where you're supposed to, well, you should, when you go in, set up, and it does both at the same time for you.
Right.
And so what I did was, since I had literally just set the one up and had done it wrong, there was a hard way you could, I think, go in and fix it, but it was the hard way. So I just deleted that because I had just put it on
Yeah.
and then created a whole new one the correct way.
Well,
So I have it doing both of those.
Yeah. I
Now-
wanted to, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt
no,
you
go
for a second. Sorry, I'm shifting things around on my screen. I don't, just as we're talking about GA4, just real quick, I don't know if you got this notification from Google. I think they sent it out to almost every
I may
Google
have
Analytics
gotten it, and may not
user
have had time to look at
this
it.
week. Well, what I find really, because they're pushing GA4 hard,
Yeah.
as it is going to be the next version and people need to start adopting it, but they're really confusing because they even say it's not ready for use yet.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, what I find incredibly frustrating is here in the bottom paragraph. They say, we know there are capabilities that many marketers need before fully replacing their existing setup. Read as, it's not ready for use.
Yeah.
So we encourage you to create a new property alongside your existing properties. So
Uh-huh.
even they are saying, it's not ready yet.
We're not ready yet.
And that's
But-
very frustrating to me. I appreciate that they're announcing and giving us a heads up.
Yeah.
But they are acknowledging doesn't have a lot of all the features that you might need yet.
Mhm.
But we should probably have GA4 collecting data.
And
Wow.
so that was what I was talking with someone yesterday that said that, so on our current ones, we have regular analytics. We need to go in and set up GA4 so it starts collecting the GA4 data. That part is on my list to do. So, but for this new one, like for new ones, unless you set it up properly, you're only going to set up GA4, and you really need to both of them because of what you just said.
Right. And because it'll be really nice to have that data in GA4 when we've moved over
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah,
So-
but it was literally only let me, because I didn't know what I was doing, only set up GA4.
Right.
And
that's very
that
frustrating.
was very frustrating, and it was not clear. It was hidden.
Yep.
But anyway, so
Okay,
let me see.
so
Yes.
Your question had to do with tag
Let me
manager.
see. So I'm adding it to tag, my Google Analytics to Tag Manager.
Okay.
So, and when I added it to Tag Manager, Google Tag Manager asked me what track type. And I got confused because I'm like, well, I just want Google Analytics in Google Tag Manager. Why do I have to select more stuff? I want the
Yes.
whole thing.
Yes.
So how do I do that?
Okay. So this is where we can tap into what we've been talking about in the Google Analytics course.
Mhm.
There are different hit types.
Yes, because it was like events and page view and
Right.
yes. Mhm.
So by default, to quote, just set up Google Analytics, the default hit type is page view. Okay. And so that's what you should set up in Tag Manager, page view hits.
Okay.
Later, if you also want to add event hits, you can add it separately, and it will not, it won't, if you set it up right, it won't. Yeah, obviously you have to always
When
say
I
that.
get there, you'll know.
When we get there, yeah, we can
Get
tackle
to
that.
that point, you'll know about it.
But you'll always want, so an event can't execute unless there has been a page view on which the event
Yes, correct,
exists.
correct.
So you'll
'Cause
always
page view, they get
need
to
the page view. The way
Like
you
hit-
set up the event counter in Tag Manager is very different. So
Yeah.
to quote, just set up analytics, you want to set up a page view
Okay.
source. While you're setting that up, go ahead and create a variable in Tag Manager for your UA code or your just so when you get to the event management, you can set that up as well.
Say that again. So in
I
Tag
might be
Manager.
getting too complicated. When you're setting up your Google Analytics tracking code in Tag Manager and working through their system, it has a line where you can enter in your UA number associated with your account.
Mhm.
as a best practice, create a variable that includes that number, and then you can insert that variable in there, because when you do the event tracking, you can use the same variable rather than have to remember your UA number. But even if you don't take that step, it'll still work as long as if you manually type in the UA number. And then of course, test it on every page. When you do it through Tag Manager, you can't use the analytics testing tools because they're testing for analytics. So you'll have to do the methods suggested in the process, which are looking at real-time tracking, turning off ghostery, and watching yourself visit pages.
That's probably why I'm getting error messages.
Okay.
You're getting error messages?
Well, with the Tag Manager, it says global site tag has a red. It says an error occurred while the tag was fired.
Yes, that's thing that you're looking at the tag assist, the plugin for Tag Assistant. And yeah, so that's correct. So that was something I mentioned, I think earlier. So when that happens, it's basically meaning ghostery is blocking.
Yeah, that's why I said
which
that's
is
probably
what
why I'm
you
getting error
want
messages. Yeah.
until you pause it to test it. Okay, let me make sure I've got
Yeah, when he said that, I said, yeah, that's probably why I'm getting my error messages.
Yeah. It's an error saying that ghostery is working properly.
Yeah, it's an error saying it's exactly what you want, because we don't want to inflate our own numbers.
Okay.
We don't want to inflate our clients' numbers. We just want accurate numbers, and this is the easiest way for us on smaller websites to do that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I do need to go in and do that check. Okay, that helped. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so
One down.
Yeah, I was hoping these weren't like long questions, even though there were a lot of them, but who knows? Okay, so local business schema. So I originally did thought I found a neat little thing that I figured out, but I found out that from David that was not a good idea.
What was that thing for the
that
record?
So I was like into Google Tag Manager, and I found where it was like, oh yeah, you can add your schema to Tag Manager. And so I did that. And then you were saying that wasn't a good idea, that it doesn't work. Yes.
Yeah. So basically for a little bit, Google was acknowledging schema and Tag Manager, but it is no longer true and no longer a recommendation. So it's better to put it manually in your site.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So my question was, so I'm doing like local business schema. Right. And so what I have found was that you're supposed to put that on like your contact page.
Sure.
And I found that you're not supposed to put it on like every single page, just like focus on your contact page. Or if you have a multi-location, it says put your main schema on your home page, and then the individual location schema on that location page.
I think that's fine. I've not heard a hard and fast rule, nor have I seen Google make major errors, but if you can do that, I think that's minimum.
Well, let me see. That was kind of my question, but let me see. So I was kind of having a problem about like, well, how do I do the individual header things? However, I think I found a solution. There are two different solutions that I found. I'm trying to stay away from a lot of plugins.
Okay.
But I found I could use a plugin to add something to individual page headers. Or I'm using Beaver Builder, and I've got the themer, and it lets me have different headers on each page.
Okay.
So I may try it. Probably what I'll do is go to my own website and test it and see how it works. So if I really make a mess of things,
well, you don't want it in the header. You want it in the body tag because it's schema.
So schema.
You don't want it in the. I should say. Let me be more precise. It shouldn't be within the head tag of the HTML. The schema should be in the body tag of the HTML. So depending on how your header.php file is set up, it might allow you to add something to the body tag,
Okay,
but that is where it's properly.
okay. I may have notes and just said that wrong. I don't.
Okay. Yeah, and
I
it
don't
very,
remember.
not knowing how the specifics on how the site's set up, maybe in
Yeah.
the header PHP. Now, there is a really easy way to do this.
Oh, okay, yes.
So, I
Now,
love,
Yoast. Are you
yeah,
talking about
I love
Yoast?
the Yoast.
So I was the local Yoast.
So that's the only service from Yoast that I pay for.
I looked at that and I that was a consideration. The main reason I probably won't is because I think that I want to be able to do it for certain clients that aren't going to want that.
So what I like about it is
Mhm.
that there's several things. Number one, they are actively maintaining it. I'm paying for it. They have an incentive to actively maintain it. Sometimes schema rules change as they
Yeah.
improve it, and then you have to go manually fix it. Now, okay, so that's one thing that's really nice about it. Number two, Yoast had, I don't want to call it a partnership, but they've worked on their schema site-wide in relationship with Google. Now, that's not some sort of like, ooh, you'll rank better because they have a relationship with Google. No. This is just they've worked with Google to make sure that they are focusing on schema correctly, that Google can read it right.
That they're doing it right.
Right. And one of
Yeah.
the things that means is that proper schema is related to other elements. So there's an overarching element of the web page. The web page describes and has an article. The article belongs to an organization. That organization has a local schema. And so when you just Yoast, free Yoast does right, is they mark up your blog posts as articles. And that's related to your organization because you've set your organization schema up in the back end. And that's related to the web page schema that tells Google how to interpret the page. And so when you add local schema, it inserts it properly in the hierarchical structure of your on-page schema. So that means it's not just only local schema, which would be helpful, but it's presented in a context of hierarchy of how the local business in that information relates to the other schema elements that are already on the page. And because you're not screwing around with, okay, am I putting it in the right place? Am I manually doing HTML? Did I make a typo? Is it valid? Like, this is why it's, I mean, there's other, there are other reasons why you'd pay for Yoast, but this is the only service I pay for.
So I think based on that, then is probably a good reason for me, especially for mine starting off. And then when I talk to clients, look, we can put it on there, but we can't guarantee it's right and it's going to stay right.
Well, right. That's one of the things that also the Yoast plugin for local allows you to set all kinds of settings that are really, really complicated to do manually, like working hours. Like your logo is actually pretty complicated with schema. You can select things like, cost things, and you can, local schema is actually a kind of local schema. If you're an attorney, you can use the attorney schema. Yoast allows you to say, are you a local business, general, or are you a specific kind of business, and select that. So you're not just providing local, general, local schema. You're providing the proper local schema for your industry.
I was looking at those. They've got specific ones you just have to check. You can't like make your own up. You have to select, just like a lot of things in Google.
Right. And if you have a non-home based business, it integrates really well with the Google Maps API.
Okay, so that's really my next question related to this. So local business schema. So for example, me, I work from my home office, and my Google map is what's called a SAB, service area business. I don't have a pin on the map. Can I have local business schema?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because that's kind of a question that came up. I thought that I could, but then somebody was saying no.
I don't know how it would be helpful, because what Google is using the schema for is understanding where this business exists. If that information is not publicly available, what is
Mhm.
the local schema doing?
Mhm. Well, I was thinking like giving more of the information, like you were saying, the hours, the logo, all of that type of thing. I was thinking more of it for that.
Well,
But
this sounds like a great example of a test.
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that would involve
to
paying for
test
that.
it and see if I get a bad email from Search
No,
Console.
no, I don't. So that's not an abuse that you would do that. Like if you
Mhm.
were
Okay.
adding review schema and it was invalid, then you're going to get a nastygram for Google.
Mhm.
This is worst case scenario, Google saying, I don't know why she's telling us this, because it doesn't help us.
Doesn't apply. Okay.
And so they just ignore it. But the test I'd like to see is, does somehow this improve your visibility on your local listing?
Mhm.
Because we have data in the Google My Business to tell us impressions and how people are finding us.
Mhm.
And does, a month without it, then a month with it, change that visibility data?
Okay.
I think if you are doing a a service area business, I don't think local schema is that important.
Okay.
Especially because you are giving away the information that you are trying to hide from the public by putting your address and stuff in it.
Well, I was using my mailing address.
Well, but that's not consistent with your My Business.
Which doesn't have anything.
Right. So then you're sending contradictory signals to Google, one with a
Okay.
mailing address that
Yeah.
you don't want them to use. And that's that contradictory signal that suggests to me you probably don't need it.
Okay. Okay.
But if you wanted to test it, you could. One thing I would try to do before I paid for Yoast, if you're doing a service area business, so is create. Let me see if I can.
Well, I wonder if
Hold on a second here. Hold on a second here.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
My thought is going to be to reach out to Yoast and say, is your plugin going to work for my website to pay for it?
Well,
of course
I think the people at Yoast are very honest and very, wanting to help businesses, but they do have a vested interest.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm not accusing them of any impropriety. Just, I think they might err on the side of, sure, it couldn't hurt.
Sure, it could help. Yeah, it couldn't hurt.
It could help.
But yeah.
So let me hold on. Okay, I have a little spreadsheet. Oh, is it in the game plan? Is there a spreadsheet in the game plan showing you how to create local schema?
Oh, I don't know.
I wonder if I did that. Oh, that's not it. That's not what I'm looking for. What am I? Oh, there, it's been hidden. Okay, hold on. All right, let me take a moment. That might be worth our time. So if you bear with me.
Okay.
I'm going to. Schema. All right, here we go. It's buried deep within the game plan.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I didn't do that. Okay, so let me see if I can find this. At one point, I created a Google Sheet to help you create valid local schema. Here it is. All right, hold on a second. We're going to share this.
Is it in the game plan?
It is not, but I haven't added it because I'm not sure it's really up to date. So let's just,
Ah, I gotcha.
let's do a working example. Okay. And you can tell this is old because it's called Tag Manager. Because at one point you could add this to Tag Manager. Okay. Oh, this is not it. This is not it. Okay, sorry, false alarm.
Okay.
So what I was going to do, and maybe I'll find this and see what I can do, but I created a spreadsheet a while ago that made it really easy to create new local schema. And I went through and you just fill in the blanks and it gives, here's the schema, and you can copy and paste it into your site. What I was going to do is go to this, to enter that information without your personal information like address, stuff like that. If we have the local schema, we can then take that local schema that you've generated, put it into Google's, I'm brain farting right now.
That schema checker thing.
The structured data tool.
Yes.
And the one that's going away that we all hate is going away.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen again because this, I want to be sure we. So this is the structured data testing tool. And we can.
Yeah, that's what I was using. I was using that and
we can do the code snippet.
Huh?
We can get a code snippet. We can paste the schema code and then run a test, and it'll tell us if it's valid or not.
Yeah, I did that. I had success, and then I went and was adding more stuff to one, and it kept giving me little red things, and I couldn't figure out, and I was spending too much time on it, so I had to move to something else.
So what did you try it without your local information in it?
So I haven't done this for me yet.
Yeah.
Well, no, I take that back. I did. But you know what I did for my address? I put in my what do you call it, address?
Your mailing address?
Yeah. Because see, that's what I use on other citations.
Yeah. So with citations, it's all about name, address, phone number, consistency. And so that the idea is that all your citations are consistent, and the local schema serves as a signal to say, we are indeed confirming this is our name, address, and phone number. If this tool tells you that local schema is valid when you don't enter any mail address, mail address, then you could consider doing something like the Yoast plugin without your address. If it's not valid because you don't have an address, then I would not put my mailing address in.
So I need to test that.
Yeah, because Google is using this as a signal of name, address, phone number, consistency, and that's the consistency they want. They don't want to see your mailing address sometimes and not your mailing address other times.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So that's how I would test to see before I invested in the Yoast plugin.
Yeah.
Local Yoast plugin.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I have regular Yoast and yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and regular Yoast is super.
Yeah.
But
when I have the unpaid regular Yoast.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't pay for regular Yoast. I pay for local Yoast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that answers that. I will look into and see if it works without the address and go from there. The next one is when I do my robots TXT file and I add my my sitemap to it thing. What else should it be in there besides, like, it creates its own little thing. And so I did a little test and I looked at Curious Ants to see what your robots text file looked like. And then that was all that was in there, but I wanted to make sure, should I add something else? Is there anything else that needs to be in it?
So Under normal circumstances, no. You know, and for most WordPress websites, the default WordPress setting, robots.txt, is totally adequate. Robots.txt is kind of an out of date thing anymore. It's almost a suggestion to Google at this point, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
They sometimes ignore it, which is disappointing. But what you really got to understand is you never want to exclude stuff that can't be seen by the public in your robots.txt file. So, for instance, I have a friend who tried to create a business around the idea of helping doctors and dentist offices understand their own security problems by looking at their robots.txt file and finding all their patient records and billing information. Because they would list them in the robots.txt file saying, hey, Google, don't go to this directory. Well, what would a nefarious person do?
Go to
I'm
the
going to go to the
directory.
directory you telling me not to go to. And there they'd find credit card numbers, social security numbers, medical information, and they'd send an email to them and say, you know, and he couldn't make the business work because
Yeah.
every time he emailed them, he thought they were being blackmailed. Anyway,
Yeah.
he was just
Wow.
found schools would do it. Like schools would have student records hidden by robots.txt because it is a list of things you don't want people to look at.
Mhm.
So understand its own limitations. Google is treating it almost as a suggestion at this point, and you could be giving away directories and locations of stuff that you really don't want people seeing. So anything that is sensitive like that must be done behind a password on a server level.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And don't,
okay.
you know,
And-
call Steve Schwartz and make sure Steve sets up the system so that
yeah.
no one
No,
can
I
look at it.
didn't have any plans for that. I was more just kind of saying, is that all robots text
Yeah.
needs?
Yeah, that's the
Gotta
answer
leave
is yeah,
something
that's
out?
all you really
I didn't
need.
even think about all that stuff. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Okay,
yeah, just, I want to make sure to bring it up because sometimes people
No, I'm
will
glad you did because that
take
makes
advantage
that way
of
if
it.
I ever see it, I know.
Yeah, yeah. It's horrible. It's the number one way, sorry, the number two way crooks on the internet get credit card numbers. The number one way is going to Instagram and searching for the hashtag credit card and taking credit card numbers off people who share their first credit card on Instagram.
Crazy.
So that's the number one way to get credit card
Yeah,
numbers.
I
Number
mean,
two is
like,
look at everybody's
honestly-
robots.txt file.
So in the same kind of thing, your sitemap.
Yep.
So like, I guess mine, it was created automatically by whatever WordPress, blah, blah, blah. And I can look at the link there. Do I need to check it for anything or just
So
to make sure I have what I need in it?
I think for most websites, you don't really need an XML sitemap.
Mhm.
So by the default one generated by WordPress, or because now WordPress is generating one by default, the Yoast one is a little bit more robust. I prefer that if you're using the Yoast plugin. And I in one sense, you can just do it and go.
Mhm.
Every once in a
Okay.
while, I'll review my XML sitemap just to make sure something's in there that I don't want in there. For
Mhm.
instance,
Okay.
the confirmation page of a form submission,
Okay.
some sort of page like with Curious Ants. I don't really need to have back-end customer login pages in the XML
Page,
sitemap.
yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Google can't get them because they're password protected, but why
It gives
even?
a place for people to figure out how to hack.
Yeah, you're basically
like-
giving that away too.
Like
So-
here's the door, try to unlock it.
Right, exactly. So you can go into the individual page under advanced settings of Yoast, and you can say no index the page, and that will automatically remove it from the XML sitemap.
Okay.
As long as you're using the Yoast XML sitemap.
Yeah, okay.
And that helps. Otherwise, you probably can just get away with just leaving it and letting it go.
Okay.
Glad you said that because I just put Yoast back on my website because I think I'm going to post well, I'm gonna be putting blog posts up. So I put that back on there.
Good.
Okay.
We had some confusion early in the game plan, Tricia, where I was bad talking Yoast, and I think a couple people thought I was saying don't use it, but I was bad mouthing the green light. The green light is worthless.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that too, but then when Steffi came in, it was about speed, site speed, and want to know
Oh.
if you took Yoast off, will it speed up the site or not?
Yeah. I know there are some people who suspect that Yoast is a suck of speed, but I haven't seen that yet.
I think she shared, but it was a really small, and I think for what you get out of the SEO, I think that you're better off with it than without.
That's
was
kind of what
how
I would
took
say.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know they've improved it recently too.
Oh,
Right.
that's good.
Yeah. So I recommend it for all the things that it's almost the invisible plugin. If you just have it running, does most of what you need it to do. So
Yeah, I don't like the red and yellow and
Oh, yeah, that's
green
really
lights, because
confusing.
I look at mine and it's like orange or yellow, whatever it is, and I'm like, oh, go away, I don't want to see you.
yeah. Yeah. There's
Then I
I've
get a
seen
green, I'm
people
like, oh,
abuse
look,
that.
it's green, and I'm like, it really doesn't mean all
Right.
that. So, yeah.
I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
But I think so many of my first SEO conversations are why you should ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we
So,
are
my
whipping through these.
last one has to do with Yoast as well.
Okay.
Okay, so when you go into Yoast and there's like, is it the webmaster place where it's like, okay, enter your Google code verification and your Bing verification code?
Yep.
So the way I typically do Google Search Console is for that verification is I put it in they give you a code to put in the TXT for your domain, I think, your DNS records. So that part of that is the code.
Right.
For Google Search Console.
Right.
So that I would put into Yoast on the site.
Right.
For Google.
Right.
So here's the problem when I went to do Bing. When I logged into Bing, it was like, oh, if you've got Google Search Console, we can just, bam, it's done. So I did that. And then I went to Bing and I could not find Bing's verification code to put into Yoast.
Right. You don't need to.
So, okay, so that was my question. I'm like, well, if I've got it connected, do I need to tell Yoast?
No.
Okay.
So the gist of it is, it's just Yoast is trying to give you as many options as they can to verify these things.
Okay.
So what Bing wants to know is, do you have the rights to access this site? And they're saying, if you've given Google the rights to look at this, if Google is confident with your ability to look at the site, we're going to be confident in your ability to look at that site. So for instance, I can't have access to your Search Console data unless you grant me ad access, because it's none of my business. Same.
Yeah.
And that's all those things are to do. And what that's doing is the old meta tag method of validation. So that Google sees the meta tag on your site, therefore you have access to this. Now, Google has recently changed the way they verify Search Console.
They have two ways. Is that what you're talking about?
There's a lot of ways.
Okay.
In my humble opinion, and now this doesn't, I don't know if this means you need to stop everything and go do this, but Google has been pushing, and I kind of like this idea of verifying on a registrar level. So verifying your
like
site through
what
the
they call it,
registrar.
domain.
Yes.
That's what I always do since they offer that.
Right. And so
I
that
like
means you don't need to add the meta tag in Search Console. Or
Correct.
in Yoast.
And yeah.
Right.
I
'Cause
just
it's
go and
redundant.
verify it with the DNS records and do it the domain. Because my understanding is you get everything, the subdomains, the everything, and there's not a chance of not getting something. And that's why I did that and do that on my clients.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a best practice. And then you don't have to mess with the Yoast Google Webmaster verification is superfluous.
Okay, so that's all that really is just kind of putting it in saying, yes, or if I needed to verify it that way. So if I've actually verified it with Google Search Console and Bing, I can ignore those two little things and yes.
Right.
Okay, that was kind of my question because, okay.
And
that
for
helps.
you, as someone who manages clients, and for Lavanya as well, when I take over a client, I check to see if that's already in there, because that suggests to me that someone else might have access to Search Console, especially if the client doesn't know. At which case I would remove it unless the client has given you access, delegated you access to Search Console. Because frankly, number one, that data is of no business to anybody but the client and who the client wants to know, hopefully you as their service provider. I don't want some
I
other
see.
developer somewhere with the ability to, for instance, disavow all links to the site if there's a bad blood or incompetence. Like, I just want to take that off. Now, I have one client's site, they validated for Yoast, someone else validated through Divi, and then the client delegated me registrar level validation. So that means there could be potentially two other people or groups out there with access to their Search Console data that could be malicious if they wanted to be. So just make sure you know that no one else has access to the data, because Search Console is a lot of data, but it also could be used to harm a website.
Okay.
If you're not careful and if you allow the wrong person the wrong access.
So that's kind of similar to like I kind of look at it as like anything, whether it's social media, Google Search Console, or anything. Look at who your users are. And if there's somebody who's no longer you're working with or no longer an employee, they shouldn't be on there.
That's right.
You need to get them off. Because that's what I tell people specifically for Google My Business, but Facebook, all this stuff. Okay.
And this is why I insist clients do not give me their passwords.
Yeah.
I do not want your password. Do not give me your password. Here is how you delegate access to me, so you maintain control. That is you, the business owner's asset that is worth money. You should own it. Do not give me your password or I could lock you out of it.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're doing a service to your clients by teaching them how. So what I do is I have a document that I've written up, which is a step-by-step that I email new clients. Here you go. This is how you give me access. Now,
I do that too.
9 times out of 10, they don't
time.
follow directions and they give the wrong email address, but we're getting there, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to protect my clients.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm in, I can see if other people have access. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'll ask, who is this person? Do you know?
So question on that. So for example, Google Search Console.
Yeah.
So if they have it on there and you then have access to that Google Search Console, my understanding is you can see the users, or the admin can see the users, so that you can then tell them who are these people. You don't set up a new Google Search Console. You go in and see who the users are, correct? Okay. That's
Right.
what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I have I actually have several documents. One is here's how you add me to Search Console. One is here's how you add me to Google Analytics.
Mhm.
One is here's how you add me to AdWords. One is here's how you add me to Bing or whatever it is. I don't even care anymore. But here you go. Follow directions.
Yeah.
You
I have those, and
ownership.
Did a little video, like little Loom type video. I need to go look and see if that's current, because
And that's the trick. Sometimes the clients will be like, it doesn't look that way anymore.
Yeah.
I know. You try to, but that's why I like a written document, because then it's.
Well, I do it both ways. I like to say, here's the written and here's the video, because some people are, so.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. But that will help. I don't want the response, because if you give me your password, I have access to your Gmail.
Yeah.
And I don't want that liability. I do not want that liability.
No, I don't.
And you should never trust anybody that much.
That's what I say. I have some people that are just say, I don't really care. I'm like, oh my God, oh my
No.
God.
Nope, 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 nope.
Yeah.
So we have answered all 4 D6
Of
of
my
your questions.
Yes.
No, these were great questions.
Hey, we did it all in
We
an
did it
hour, and I even
all.
think I had an add-on to one of those that I did. So yeah.
So Lavanya, you got 3 minutes left to ask a question.
I don't have a question. Everything y'all went over, I went back and was checking mine. For some reason, I was thinking I did something wrong.
Oh, okay,
No, I'm
good.
good.
So it was helpful.
Yeah.
Good, good.
That's the
good,
whole
good.
point, right? None of us
Um,
are asking unique questions that have never been asked before. And sometimes we
Yeah.
ask a question that we forgot to ask. So Right.
I will say that Google is frustrating me so much with like all of their new stuff. So like, I said, I did Google Analytics, and it was hard because they have the new GA4 and I had to go find the way to do that. Well, there was some new thing they're doing with their reCAPTCHA. And when I went and just went to go to it, it was difficult. They changed how you access it, and I had to go in a back way to find it. Otherwise, it wanted me to set some kind of organization thing, and I never could figure out. And finally, I just gave it a day and went back and found how to like the back door into what I'm like, seriously, Google, like, stop.
I think Google's freaking out with all the privacy stuff, and CAPTCHA is another way for them to collect data. And now
Mhm.
they're like, oh no, we got to, new privacy laws. We got to change CAPTCHA.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's all they're freaking out.
Yeah.
And maybe not freaking out, but they're still
But-
going to get their data.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is why everybody uses Chrome. They're going to
Mhm.
have plenty of data.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I know. I love Chrome. Even though I know they get all my data, I do like using it. So
yeah, that's a
I
whole
have so
other
many
conversation.
plugins. I know I have some, not plugins, but extensions.
Yeah.
That I use all day, every day.
Yeah. Nope, I agree. I know what you mean. Well, it's good to see you too, or at least see
You
one of
too.
you. Lavanya, I'm picturing you with a smile. All right. Well,
Okay, thank you
hope
for
both
answering
take
all my
care.
questions.
Absolutely.
Hopefully-
Great questions. Keep them coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
say
thank
that
you.
now. You just wait.
All right. Good. All right. Thanks.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye. See you
Bye.
later.